in the last stream, we were working on setting up and automating the new Infinity Miner multi-block, which is now allowing us to make an automatic and unlimited amount of iron and copper ore without the need to continually move and replace and, more importantly, repower a bunch of these electric drills to get that iron and copper ore. To do that, we did have to automate the production of the Zephyrium Aerothium, I believe is what it's called. And right now, there's a slight problem with the system, and that problem is that currently Niter is our bottleneck. And if we look in here, you'll see that we're still making more of these Blitz rods. That's because the round robin here is, of course, set to 50-50 on the Niter and the Blitz rods, but we kind of need more Niter than we do Blitz rods, and right now this drawer is filling up, despite the fact that we don't need any more of them. And so, real quick, I think what I'm going to do is take some Blitz rods out of here and drop in a storage downgrade. It's still going to take a little while because the internal inventory of the loot fabricator here does still need to fill up with 16 stacks of Blitz rods before this is fully backed up, but once this has backed up and once this is full on 64 Blitz rods, then all of the new pristine matter should go into making Niter, and the whole system should run a lot more smoothly. But now that that's taken care of, what I want to work on in today's stream is I want to utilize some of the fairly large amount of research that we now have to unlock our first steps into auto crafting. And by auto crafting, I don't mean the kind of auto crafting that we have here, where we use an auto workbench to make one specific recipe. I want something more akin to the refined storages and applied energistics of the world, where we can open up a terminal and request that a specific item or block of items be crafted for us, and that's going to make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier, especially in terms of making things like thermal expansion machines. If we could have our system, for example, make the pistons, make the machine frames, make the redstone reception coils, all of that stuff for us, it's going to save a lot of the microcrafting that we currently have to do manually. Before I do that, it does appear that we are full up on storage here, and so real quick, I think what I will do is utilize some of the gold and diamonds that we have to make all of our chests into gold chests and then into diamond chests, just to give us maximum storage space. And then in terms of auto crafting, we do have a couple of options in terms of what mod we want to use for auto crafting. The two big options for us really are logistics pipes and integrated dynamics. Now, logistics pipes is a mod I've played with before. I'm quite familiar with how the auto crafting in that works. Integrated dynamics, on the other hand, is a mod that I've played with a little bit, but I'm not as familiar with the auto crafting setup. I've actually never played with it, but I think it looks kind of interesting, and I'm down to try something new. And so I think we're going to go and try and get integrated crafting unlocked. In order to do that, we do first have to unlock the integrated dynamics quest at the bottom here. For that, we need 32 production, 16 x8 mechanics, and 32 x8 logistics. So let's do you, and then let's go boom, boom, and boom. As a reward here, we of course unlock integrated dynamics, but we also get a mineral sapling and on the dynamics of integration, which is the guidebook for integrated dynamics. Then, if we want to unlock the auto crafting, we do have to unlock this quest as well, which is kind of even more expensive. Another 32 production, that is easy enough. We then need 32 x8 mechanics, which thankfully we do have. And then finally, we need 16 x64, which we also have. We've got 32 in there. Fantastic. So boom, boom, and boom. Nice. Okay, cool. Between streams, by the way, I did throw storage downgrades into here, like this. I think I might have done it in all three. I did. Simply due to the fact that once we get to 64 of the 64x logistics research, I think at that point we can safely have the system stop until we want more. And so that's how that works, by the way, with the compacting drawer. If you put a downgrade in, instead of limiting the drawer to 64 of the lowest tier, it limits it to 64 of the highest tier. So essentially, once we get to 64 lots of 64 logistics research, that's when the system will stop and start backing up, and eventually we'll stop using more iron and copper to make that. The same is true, of course, for the mechanics and the production. But now that we have that unlocked, let's see if we can't get a basic integrated dynamics system up and running. And it starts with the crafting terminal, this one right here, the storage terminal. To make this, we need a mineral glass, which is mineral resin with glass in a drying basin. We also need some glowstone, which we are going to have to unlock via a loot fabricator set up for gas data, which again, we do need it anyway in order to push forward into utility research, which is probably what we'll work on in the next episode. And then alongside that, we also need an input and output variable transformer, which requires some variable cards and some crystallized mineral chunks. And these crystallized mineral chunks are kind of the bedrock of integrated dynamics. We get them from these mineral samplings, and as luck would have it, we do have a couple of mineral trees around in the world. So I'm hoping that breaking one of these blocks might bring the whole tree down here. It does. It looks like the little feet at the bottom don't quite count as part of the tree. That is fine. And it looks like there's also maybe the odd bit of wood that also doesn't count there. But this gives us a ton of these mineral berries, but more importantly, it gives us some of these crystallized mineral chunks. And again, we're going to need quite a lot of these moving forward. Again, thankfully, I'm fairly certain there are a few more trees dotted around near to the base. Once we've torn those down, we're going to have to set up a bit of a mineral tree area to grow quite a few of these so we can push forward. But real quick, let me tear down these two trees and let's see how many of these crystallized mineral chunks we can get. So we didn't get too many there. We got 6 crystallized mineral chunks, which is really not too much, and I think we're going to need a lot more. However, it does appear that we can craft blocks of crystallized mineral back into mineral chunks. You can also do this the other way around. You can craft the mineral chunks into a block, but the blocks themselves can be made by putting 1,000 millibuckets of mineral resin into either a drying basin or a mechanical drying basin. And we can get, by the looks of it, some mineral resin by just putting a mineral log into a fluid transposer. And so, real quick, let's see if we can't get another fluid transposer, because if we can, it looks like that's going to be a much easier way of getting a large amount of crystallized mineral, as opposed to growing just a staggering number of mineral trees and hoping to get some crystallized mineral chunks. For now, I'm going to put this down just right about here, just to test if this works. If we put in the wood, does that work? It looks like it totally does. Nice. And then I assume that if we get a bucket here, that what we should be able to do is, I think we can just right-click the liquid out. We totally can. Alternatively, we could have put the bucket in and set this to fill. Like if you put the bucket here, it would have filled up with the liquid that was in there. Either way, now we need to get ourselves a drying basin. There are 2 tiers. The mechanical drying basin is better, but does require more stuff. And it looks like we're currently unfamiliar with these items. I think those are batteries, and I think to unlock those we need to unlock integrated dynamics power transfer, which is this quest down here. It's probably something we could do, but I'd rather not spend 32x8 logistics research if we don't have to, at least not at the moment. And so the regular drying basin here might get the job done. It does require an ink sac or a black pigment, and that could be the trickiest part of all of this. Actually, never mind. It turns out the pack creator has thought of this, and we can just smelt up a regular old cactus green into an ink sac. That is fantastic news. Once we have that ink sac, that should be everything for the drying basin. This says for drying items and fluids. And so let's put this down over by the fluid transposer for now. And if we put some mineral resin into here, that should begin drying. You'll see the little particle effects are taking place there. It's quite possible we might want to make a couple of these, although to be fair, it's not too slow. It's definitely a lot faster than trying to grow trees and use those to get a bunch of the crystals. Obviously, we do still have to grow trees to get the mineral wood itself, and so I think what I'll do real quick is plant these 15 samplings, just so we have some wood together in the future, and then we'll do a little bit of mineral drying to get quite a few, maybe a few stacks of crystallized mineral chunks. Now, there is actually quite the possibility here that we could probably just automate this, and it's also possible, although I don't know if it's going to work, but a compacting drawer might allow us to automatically like decompact all of the blocks. So if I do this, and then I do this, I think we can auto set this to output to the left. Perfect. And then ideally, if we throw down an item conduit right about here, we could then set this to extract always active, set this to insert, and yeah, that totally works. Nice. So we can kind of just leave that there, and that is going to slowly but surely get us just a bunch of crystallized mineral chunks, and if we really wanted to, we could grab like a hopper or something to feed in the remainder of the wood to make sure that all of the wood slowly but surely gets transformed into chunks. Cool. So I don't think we need the actual wood itself for anything other than the chunks here, so I think it's fairly safe to do that. Again, we are growing more over in the distance there now, so if we do need more, we can always just go and use those. While we wait for this to do its thing though, let me quickly see about getting another simulation chamber loot fabricator setup going, potentially right about here for glowstone. Because again, if we are going to get this terminal, we do need glowstone to make that happen. And of course, the way we get that is the same way we got redstone, but this time with the gassed data model. All right, and not too long later, we now have another simulation chamber, another loot fabricator. Once again, we used the auto workbench to craft up the gassed data model, which is now producing the hellish matter here, and is also producing the pristine matter, which is being turned into glowstone. Unlike some of the others, this is the only option. You can't make anything else, especially not like with the blitz rod where you can make a ton of different stuff. It is just glowstone. Real quick, let me grab a framed drawer just so that we can take all of that excess hellish matter and basically delete it once we get to 2048. We'll do something like that. As per usual, we're going to rotate this with the Yeta wrench because it doesn't like to go down the right way the first time. That's fine. And also, as per usual, we'll throw in a void upgrade in there just to make sure that the whole system never backs up. Not quite sure why the drawers are not shift-clicking into the recipe there. It might be because they're spruce drawers and not oak drawers, but either way, that is done. We'll make sure it's locked as well. And now that we have some glowstone, we should be able to actually make the integrated dynamics storage terminal. For that, we need a block of, well, we need quite a bit of mineral. How much have we got here? We've got 690. Fantastic. So I'll take a few of these. We do need some mineral glass by the looks of it. The mineral glass there is made by putting glass into the drying basin with mineral resin. Do I have some glass sitting around here? I do. Can I just do this? I totally can. Nice. Okay, so you just drop the glass in while there's some liquid mineral in there. That's fine. Now we need a display panel. That requires 2 static light panels, which needs an output variable. We need quite a few output variables, which means we're going to need a few pistons. We did make pistons in bulk in the last episode, so we're all good on that front, I think. These do require variable cards, which require paper and crystallized mineral. So this could be a slight problem for us, simply due to the fact that we actually don't have that much of the industrial hemp fiber left. We do have a lot of industrial hemp seeds, and it's probably going to be in our best interest to quickly replant some of those, just so we can start growing them again, because I think we're going to need quite a lot of paper today. There is a roundabout way that we could probably do it utilizing the sawdust. You may have seen there was a recipe. If we jump through over to here, we can use 4 sawdust and a bucket of water to make paper, and sawdust we can get by running wood, I believe, through a pulverizer. So we can turn some of our like spruce wood into sawdust and then use that to craft paper, which might be what we have to do as kind of a stopgap until we get a large amount of this. There is also the phytogenic insulator, which we could use, I believe, to automate the growth of the industrial hemp. But again, for now, I'm just going to quickly throw down just a ton of industrial hemp seeds here, because that is hopefully going to give us really all the paper that we're going to need. All right, so now we've got all those planted down. Again, just as kind of a stopgap solution, I am going to throw some wood into one of these pulverizers here just to get a decent amount of sawdust. And while we're waiting for that hemp to grow, we can use this as our source of paper. And I'm fairly certain, much like with all of the other recipes that include water, what we should be able to do, I'm coming over here through force of habit, thinking I can get water from the tank there. I can't. My water is from the aqueous accumulator. We can right-click on that, and then we can just craft 4 sawdust with that reservoir. That gets us paper. Fantastic. And of course, we can take basically all the sawdust that we get and turn all of it into paper, which makes paper fairly easy, although not particularly automated, which is what would be ideal going forward. Anyway, now we have that. Let's go back to this terminal here. Let's see if we can't get some variable cards. We are going to need a lot of these. 24 probably isn't going to be enough, but once we have that, we should be able to make the output variable transformer. We totally can get 4 of those, as well as an input variable transformer, although this one requires a sticky piston, and this is where things could get tricky, because actually, again, never mind. Look at that. The pack creator knew what they were doing. Let me clear that out. Once again, if we get a cactus green, and I'm hoping the reservoir works here as well, if we quickly do something like this, we can then go and boom. Nope, that just dyes it green. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like we are going to have to use an actual bucket to make that work, so let's try that again. We'll take the bucket of water, and hopefully that doesn't give us a green bucket. It doesn't. It gives us a slime ball. That is perfect. That gets us a sticky piston, and with the sticky piston, we get the 4 input variable transformers. And so at that point, it should just be the display panel that we're missing. That requires 2 static light panels, 1 and 2. That gets us the display panel, and that should be everything for the storage terminal. Nice. Now, the storage terminal does need to go onto some logic cable. Logic cable is just sticks, crystallized mineral chunks, and redstone. It would appear we have no sticks in the system, but I'm hopeful that we do have a backlog of sticks over in here. We do. We're fully backed up on 2,048 sticks. Drop those in the system, and that gets us the cable that we need. Again, going to need quite a bit of this, actually, which is kind of one of the main reasons that we need a lot of this crystallized mineral chunk. Once we have the logic cables, we then need to decide where we're going to put our storage terminal. I think for now, we'll put it down somewhere over here, like this. And now, essentially, if we open this up, this is going to show us all the items that we have in connected inventories. To connect an inventory to the storage terminal, kind of in a similar way to the simple storage network, we need these item interfaces. These are made with regular chests and mineral chunks. Once we have them, we can do 1, 2, 3, and 4, like that. Connect all of those up, like this, to the terminal. And now, inside of the terminal, we can see all of the items in all of those chests. So far, it's not too impressive because it's not something we couldn't already do with our simple storage network. I think I'm probably going to try and keep both of these around. Like, we could completely replace the simple storage network with the storage terminal. The only trouble is I don't think that Integrated Dynamics has a remote. And so outside of putting down multiple terminals all over the base, I think having both the simple storage network for wireless access and the Integrated Dynamics system for auto-crafting is potentially going to be the best of both worlds. So there are 2 tabs, one for item storage. You can just take your items out and put them in, much like you would do with the simple storage network. And there's a crafting terminal where you can do the same stuff you do with the simple storage network. You can shift click in recipes and all that kind of good stuff. But as I said, that so far is nothing we couldn't already do. Where it gets more interesting is when we get to the crafting interface. This guy right here doesn't look too difficult. We need 2 more crafting tables, along with an input variable, an output variable, and a block of crystallized mineral. That all seems pretty straightforward, although, yeah, it looked like I dropped those crafting tables there. Let's do that, and we need 1 more output variable transformer. Thankfully, that's the non-sticky piston kind. Boom. And now, what we can do is we can take a regular crafting table, place that down, let's say here, connect that to the crafting interface, like that, and then connect the crafting interface to our network. Now, in here, there are 9 slots for essentially crafting recipes that we want to auto-craft. So, in order to do that, we need to use our variable cards, but we need to specify what we want those variable cards to craft. The way that we do that is by using the logic programmer. This is a block of crystallized mineral with yet another crafting table. So let's do this. This gets us a logic programmer. I do believe we can upgrade this to a portable logic programmer by just crafting it like this. And so you could put the logic programmer down, but there's really no need. If you craft it, you get a portable logic programmer. And essentially, this looks scarier than it is, but all we need to do is take a variable card, place it in, click recipe, which is on the left here, and then in JEI, we can shift click in a recipe. So for example, we've been making a lot of crafting tables. We could click on the move items button and then take this out. And so now we have a variable card that has the recipe for a crafting table locked into it. And so if we were to put that in over here, like this, you'll see there's a little tick there. That's all good. And now in here, if I go ahead and type in crafting table, we don't have any crafting tables in the system. If I go and type it in over here, we've got no crafting tables, just 1 rogue crafting station. But if I click on this and I specify how many I want to craft, either, you can go up by 1, you can go up by 10, you can go up by 100, or you can go by 1,000, or down by 1,000, down by 100, down by 10, or down by 1. You get the idea. If we click next, it'll tell us we don't have any oak planks. That's fair. What we can probably do then is go ahead back to the portable logic programmer. Well, actually, real quick, let me just get oak planks. So let me take one of these. Let's do this craft manually, right? And let's put it back into the system. Now, if we try that again, and we click next, it has the oak planks. We click craft, and boom, it made us a crafting table. It just crafted it for us. But, of course, as I was alluding to a second ago, we can take this 1 step further. We can go back in here, click recipe, drop in another card, and this time say that we want to teach it how to craft oak planks. It looks like it doesn't automatically do the recipe. That's fine. We can, again, shift click it in from JEI. And now if we put this in over here, now it will do both crafts. If I go and I request a crafting table again, let's take this one out, let's click start and next, you'll see that it's nested the other craft in it. So it knows it needs a crafting table, it knows it doesn't have the planks required, but it knows that it does know how to make the planks by using an oak wood, and so if I click craft, it's going to do both crafts back to back and give me a crafting table. Pretty cool stuff. The Twitch chat is telling me that we can potentially fix this first variable card. Let me drop this back in here, and we should see nothing, I guess, but let's re-shift click in the recipe for a crafting table. People are telling me that we can change this. Right now it's set to match by item type and meta value. Shift click to change. Match by item type, meta value and MBT, match by item type and MBT. I think, or match by equivalent or dictionary entries. I think if we set it to that, it's a little awkward. I wish we could do that for everything. We might have to just shift click on all of these. But if we set it to match by all dictionary entries and then take this out, I think at that point, that might allow it to utilize different kinds of wood. So now if I try that again and click next, no, it's still going to craft the planks. It's not going to use the spruce planks that we have. So yeah, that doesn't seem to work. But that's okay. We can work around that in the future. But the cool thing is now, though, that going forward, so long as we connect up a lot of our storages, because right now we've got, things like iron and copper connected to our simple storage network, but if we can connect kind of every drawer that we have to our integrated dynamic system, then we should be able to start auto-crafting a lot of more complex recipes that we currently have to craft quite regularly. Stuff like heavy engineering blocks, I have to craft all the time, and they're a bit of a pain in the backside to craft, whereas if we can just automate this, if we can teach the system how to make pistons, we can teach the system how to make electrum, we can teach it how to make the steel mechanical components, we can then just have it make the engineering blocks for us, and then I can just request them be made, and they will be made, which is going to be so much easier than having to do that all manually. So this is cool in and of itself, but we can take it further. We can actually craft with machines as well, which is even cooler. So we can use the same premise to auto-craft with specific machines. For example, if I were to go ahead and see if we can make a redstone furnace real quick, which I'm hoping we can make, we just need another machine frame, which we can make, fantastic, along with 2 more external heaters, which are easy enough, and 1 more redstone reception coil. We can do the same thing here. Let's put this down, let's say right about here, and then let's get another one of those crafting interfaces. This time, we're going to put that down again, right on the back, like this, and we're going to set the back here to input and output, where it's blue and orange, and then we'll connect that up like so. And now we can essentially teach our integrated dynamics system how to craft certain items using this redstone furnace. For example, let's say we wanted to teach it how to make glass. We could, once again, go to our portable logic programmer, place in a variable card, type in glass into JEI, shift-click in this recipe here for the furnace after we click on recipe, like so, and now it knows that sand equals glass. Take this out, put that in here, and then the final piece of the puzzle is just to make sure this guy has some semblance of power. Of course, this is a very temporary setup just to kind of show off how this works, but if we do this and then grab 1 more LV wire to connect this guy to this guy, that should start receiving power. And now in here, if I say glass, and we have 24, but we can still click on the crafting option here. I can still say I want 10 more. Next, and start. That's going to send the sand over to the redstone furnace. It does send it one at a time, but it's going to make the sand into glass and then put it back in the system. Nice. And we can really go as deep as we want on this. This allows us to kind of essentially autocraft almost anything that we like. We can autocraft with any machines, we can autocraft with the metal press, we can autocraft with almost everything. And again, it's just going to make life so much easier because we spend so much time doing a ton of little microcrafts. And I think the first thing that I probably want to teach the system how to make, realistically, is just more of these crafting interfaces, because we're probably going to want quite a few of these going forward. And so again, if we take our portable logic programmer, we can drop our card in, go to recipe, and then let's type in crafting interface. We can shift click this in and take that out. Then if we put in another card here, we can change that recipe because we want to be able to teach it how to make the input variable transformer. Done. We want to teach it how to make the output variable transformer. Done. We'll drop all of these in as we go because our inventory is getting a little bit full here, but we'll drop all of those in like so. It already knows how to make the crafting table. That's easy enough. We do then need to teach it how to make the variable cards. Again, easy enough. Right now, we don't have automated paper, but if we can automate either the production of the industrial hemp or the production of wood for sawdust, we could then teach it how to make paper automatically using either of those. But I think that's basically everything that we need, right? If I go ahead and drop this into here and I go in my storage terminal, does it now know how to make the interface? It does. And craft. Now, one thing that could be quite useful here while we wait for this craft to take place is the other terminal that we don't currently have, and that is the crafting monitoring terminal, the crafting job terminal is what it's called. This guy is going to show us what items are currently scheduled to be crafted. So I think getting one of these is going to be useful because it's going to let us kind of debug if something isn't working. Like right now, you'll see that this didn't get crafted. Like I requested the interface, but we've not got an interface, and I'm kind of interested as to what has gone wrong there. And so let's see if we can't make this happen. I think the only thing we're missing really is this mineral glass. We should be able to make the panel here with another output variable transformer. That's fine. And then if we grab one piece of glass, we can hopefully quickly go and create another mineral glass and then get that job terminal. Boom, there is our mineral glass, and boom, there is our crafting job terminal. So let's go and add that to our network. We could put it really anywhere. I'm going to put it directly above the current terminal, like this. And in here, you can see that the job has been going for like 2.5 minutes, and it's not been crafted. I'm not quite sure why. I'm going to click cancel job, and let's try that again. Interface, next. It looks like we have everything to make it work. Craft. The number of items definitely changes. Like the items are taken out, but I don't know where they're going, and I don't know why that's not crafting. All right, let's do a little bit of debugging and see if we can't figure out what's wrong here. All right, so it looks like, annoyingly, the crafting interface here doesn't have permission, as it were, to craft recipes that are gated behind unlocks. So the crafter here kind of acts like a player, crafting the item for us, but this crafter hasn't completed the quest that unlocks the interface, right? It hasn't completed this quest here, and so it can't craft it. We did another test here to make sure that's the case, and you'll see here I've taught it how to make item conduits. If I try and request item conduits be made, in here it says recipe not allowed, and that's basically the crafter just can't craft that. The solution to that problem is the auto workbench, which is going to be slower, which is less than ideal, but it is going to allow this to work, I think. So if we do this and we throw down another terminal, at this point we should be able to just make another terminal, I think. And by terminal, I do mean interface, that being this guy. Boom. Let's throw that on here. And then if we move the card for the crafting interface and we put it in up here instead, the annoying downside to this is that, of course, the auto workbench can only do one recipe. So we are going to have one auto workbench per recipe that we want that is like gated behind a quest. That's not the end of the world. The auto workbenches are pretty cheap. It's just less than ideal. But now if we were to, annoyingly, you can't shift click these in either. So I guess we are going to have to, even more annoyingly, go ahead and manually grab the items required here to teach it this. But if we were to do that, we should be able to teach the recipe to the auto workbench, at which point then if we hit request, it should send all of the requested items here and should actually make the interface. All right, so this is now ready to go. So once again, if we try requesting another interface, this time, I think it should work. I think it should send the required items here, it should craft those required items, and then I'm hopeful that it'll pull the final product out. Another option for this, if we wanted this to be faster, because this is fairly slow, and yeah, see, this is another problem that we're going to have here. It doesn't pull it out. Now, that could be due to the fact that it has to come out the bottom, but I think in general, we might have to just use sequential fabricators to do this job. The sequential fabricators have two benefits. One is that you can actually shift-click the recipe in, like this, which means you don't have to have all the items to teach the recipe. Teaching this recipe right here was a bit of a pain in the backside. I had to go and craft all of these items individually, whereas with the sequential fabricator, you can just shift-click them in. And the other benefit is that it's faster as well. The only downside to the sequential fabricator, of course, is that it requires power. But to be fair, it doesn't require a continuous amount of power. It only uses a little bit of power as and when you do any kind of craft. And so I think what we'll do is we'll get a sequential fabricator. We'll probably look at teaching the system how to make it. If I put that here and I set the back to input and output, that should allow it to craft the recipe and then pull the item out once it's done. We can then do, again, one of these and one of, I guess, these. It's a bit janky in here right now, but that should give it power, and this should still know how to make the interface. This time around, if we just shift click in the recipe for the interface, now back in here, let's try that again. Do we have what it takes. We don't. We're missing a block of crystallized mineral. That makes sense. Again, at some point in the not-so-distant future, we'll look at connecting this drawer here up to the system so that this stuff is always available. And once we look at automating wood as well, we can also utilize the phytogenic insulator to automatically grow mineral wood along with, oak or spruce or whatever else we plan on growing. So if I drop you in the system and we try this again, next, and craft, that should send all the items over into here as and when they're ready. Oh no, never mind. It is done. Wait, was that fast? Hold on. Try that again. Start and... Oh, I need another output variable transformer, which is missing a piston. Okay, that's fine. We can teach it how to make a piston. That looked like it was very fast. I didn't think the sequential fabricator was that fast, but real quick, inside of the portable logic programmer, let's grab some more variable cards. Let's quickly teach our system how to make a piston. We are going to have to, at some point, teach it how to make the slime balls, which is definitely going to be the trickier part of the equation, although I guess if we can get like a zombie data model, we might be able to just make slime balls, which might be the better way of going about it. For now, though, let's do this. Let's place you down into here. Thankfully, still the vast majority of recipes can be done in a regular crafting table, and so for the most part, we're not going to need that many sequential fabricators, I don't think. Let's try this again. Next, and of course, we're missing more mineral. Sure, why not? Okay, so I figured out the problem. It's not worked again. The reason it's not worked again, though, is because, again, we've made the same mistake here. The variable cards, the input and output variable, are, again, locked behind a quest. So we need variable cards in order to craft up the interface. We need output variable cards, and we can craft them, but the crafting table can't. And so we would need to get another sequential fabricator and teach that how to make the output cards in order for this to become a reality, which is going to work, but is definitely going to be a little bit tedious, but I think that's kind of just the price that we're going to have to pay. Now that I've done that, let's try this, like, hopefully for the final time. If I select next and craft, look at that. Boom. It was nice and fast. The job is done. Perfect. Okay, so it does work. I think what we are definitely going to want to do here is we're going to have to take out the variable card crafts. These cannot go into here. They're going to have to go somewhere else. We will probably look at just like repurposing those, because I think in that case, what we're going to want to teach our system to make first is probably like the sequential fabricator, because the sequential fabricator is a machine that we're going to have to make a lot of if we want to be able to make this work. But then the sequential fabricator is also locked behind a recipe, so we're going to have to make a sequential fabricator to make sequential fabricators. Everything else here, though, like the copper gears and the redstone coils and the crafting table, all of that stuff should be fairly straightforward. The machine frame, again, is going to be another one that is not locked, I don't think, so this should be fairly straightforward to do. It's then a question. I don't know. I don't think that we can automate the engineer's workbench, and by that I mean the basic one. There is an automated engineer's workbench, which might be worth setting up just to make stuff like the steel mechanical components cheaper, because although we could teach this recipe to our system, it's much more efficient to use the engineer's workbench. So we might look at setting up an automated version of that. I am being told by the Twitch chat, though, that we might be able to connect the integrated dynamic system to our simple storage network. If that's the case, that is kind of huge. So if I quickly steal this, which does take a little while to break, although I'm going to assume that there is probably an integrated dynamics wrench that we can make. There totally is. And I assume then if I shift right click like that it pops right off. It does. So if I do that, does that give me access to everything? We're going to sort by item amount, highest to lowest. It doesn't, because we don't have access to the iron or copper there. Okay, so it's not what I thought it was. I was under the impression, I was hoping, I guess, that we'd be able to access our simple storage network connections, like the ones we have here, via our integrated dynamics terminal, but it looks like it's actually the other way around. If you do this that we've done here, it looks like at that point, the simple storage network gets access to what the integrated dynamic system has. So it's like a one-way connection. Basically, right now we have got, let's say the iron hoe is in here. So if I check my advanced storage remote, I see iron hoe, right? It's there. And if I check my integrated dynamics terminal, I can type in iron hoe, and that's not there, right? That's because there's no connection here. If we were to quickly get another set of item interfaces and drop that down here, like that. Now, inside of here, iron her, it has access to it. But I think what the Twitch chat is trying to tell me here is that if I were to break this cable, now the simple storage network should still have access to that iron hoe. And it does, because it's accessing it through the integrated dynamic system. So if I were to get rid of this pipe, I think now the simple storage network should no longer have access to that iron hoe. It doesn't. Okay. So that is kind of cool. It's unfortunate because it means we've done it kind of the wrong way around. And I've got no idea, by the way, why my inventory is all messed up like that. But essentially what we need to do now is, do we duplicate some stuff somehow? It looks like we have managed to. I'm not quite sure how we've managed to duplicate things here, but we've managed some. Oh no, it's just bugged. That's fine. But essentially, what we need to do, if we want this to work, is we can go ahead and basically replace all of these cables and all of these storage link cables with item interfaces and logic cable, and then using this little trick right here, where we, instead of using treated wooden planks, we use the link cable like that, which again, looks like I might have to disconnect and reconnect for that to actually work. But using the link cable there, we can give the simple storage network, and by extension, the advanced storage remote, access to everything that the integrated dynamic system has access to, which effectively gives us wireless access to the integrated dynamic system, albeit without the ability to do the auto crafting. We're still going to have to come back to a terminal to do the auto crafting, but that is still pretty cool. All right, so another interesting thing that we could potentially take advantage of here, chat has pointed out the omnidirectional connector. This is pretty interesting. It says, can connect to other omnidirectional connectors anywhere, including different dimensions. And so I think the idea here is that we can kind of wirelessly connect our storage terminal here, and by extension our crafting operation, to these other drawers and stuff. So basically, if we get like an omnidirectional connector, place it down somewhere over here, we could then connect all of these up to that omnidirectional connector, and that saves us having to run a cable all the way from here round and to this guy. And then the same is obviously true for kind of everywhere else in the base. Over here, we could put another omnidirectional connector down somewhere over here and then connect each and every one of these storage drawers to that omnidirectional connector, thus giving our integrated dynamics system access to all that stuff without having to run a cable to it. Again, same is true for the steel, for coal coke, for sticks, for the research. We could try and connect everything up without having to run cables all under the floor. In order to make these, we are going to have to get logic directors, and these require crystallized chorus chunks. These are made by, you guessed it, drying some liquid chorus in a drying basin, which we can get by using a fluid transposer on popped chorus fruit. The popped chorus fruit, vanilla recipe, we smelt regular chorus fruit, but thankfully, we can use extraterrestrial matter with an apple to craft that chorus fruit. And as luck would have it, over here, we have currently got 1,555 extraterrestrial matter, and so if we take quite a bit of that, we can combine it with some of the apples we got from cutting down trees earlier in the pack, and that's going to get us a decent amount of chorus fruit. I'm not going to make too many of these because I'm not sure if we're going to need the apples for anything else, and I really don't want to have to do too much more tree farming if I can avoid it. So we'll take those, and for now we can utilize this redstone furnace, although I'm pretty sure that over here we might have a spare redstone furnace that we can tap into that's going to be a lot faster than the basic redstone furnace. Okay, never mind. For whatever reason, I can't put the chorus fruit into the redstone furnace there. I'm assuming it's also not going to work. Oh, it does work over here. Oh, I think it's the augment. I see. That's my bad. Okay, fair enough. Either way, back over here, we are getting some pop chorus fruit. It is going directly into the system. That is completely fine. Let's take the pop chorus fruit and let's place that into the fluid transposer over here. So we'll drop you in like that. That's going to get us the chorus liquid, which is then going to solidify in this basin here. So we need to make at least 2 of these, and other than the logic director, we also need a mono-directional connector. We need 2 of those, which, you guessed it, requires more input and output variables. For the most part, that seems kind of fine. As per usual, we need another input variable, which is the one that requires a sticky piston. And so, again, as per usual, we're going to have to take our buckets. I'm going to take a few buckets, although we don't have that much cactus green, but I should probably get quite a bit of cactus green and just make it, because we are gonna need a lot of it. If we need a lot of these input and output variables, they're used for kind of everything in the pack, and so it might not be a terrible idea real quick to get some shears, quickly shear a fairly large amount of grass, smelt all of that up into a large amount of cactus green, and then craft that with a couple of buckets to get just a bunch of slime. There is a possibility we could automate it with deep model learning in the future, but for the time being, let's just throw you into here. That's going to start smelting at the cactus green, and then, of course, we could take that cactus green and craft it with some buckets to try and get ourselves some slime balls. Once we have those slime balls, we can make some more sticky pistons, assuming we have a piston, which I don't think we do, so I'll do this and this, and then with that sticky piston, we can, of course, make another set of input variable transformers and hopefully another monodirectional logic connector, at which point now we're just missing one more set of logic cable and the 2 logic directors, these, of course, requiring those mineral chunks, which we should be able to get from this guy over here, although I guess we need a lot of chorus fruit. I did not expect that. We do have a fair amount of chorus fruit. We've got 26 here, but each one only gets you 125 millibuckets, and I assume we need a full 1,000 millibuckets in order to actually get a full block's worth. And so I think it's quite possible here that I might have to get even more chorus fruit. I only made 16 before, but I'm going to go ahead and make, I guess, another 32 here, and we'll get that smelting as well. And once we've got a block of crystallized chorus, that does get us 9 chunks, which I don't think is going to be enough, surprisingly, because I think we need 12 in total here. Oh, no, never mind. We get 4 logic directors at a time, and so that should be enough for 2 omnidirectional connectors. So let me see if I can figure out how these work. So over here, I'm going to put one down, let's say right about here for now, right? And this has a cool animation to it. It says ID 10 group 0, and I don't know if I can change the group at all. It says group 0, that's fine. Over here, if I put another one of these down, like that, this is also group 0, and so I assume if I were to break this and grab another one of those item interfaces, right now we've got 22 silver accessible there, and there's no silver in here, so the silver's probably a bad one to start with. Let me go with the gold. Right now there is 6,000 gold inside of this drawer, and if I disconnect the link cable and we check in here, we have 357 gold that's not in this drawer. If I were to do this and then run a cable to that, like this. Oh, it goes the other way around? Okay, let me break and replace that. Again, the wrench is going to be our friend here. Let's do this and this. I think it's going to be easier if we place down the cable first and then put the omnidirectional connector onto it like that. That's perfect. So now if I did this, does that give us access to the gold? It totally does. Again, the advanced storage scanner here is obviously connected to the simple storage network, but the simple storage network is then connected to the integrated dynamic system, and the integrated dynamic system now has access to the gold. That is pretty nifty stuff, and does mean that we can just do like this, and then, of course, we could make multiple of these, right? We could have like one for each drawer if we really wanted to cut down on cable mass, but at the same time, we can also just kind of get rid of this, throw down another interface like that, and then just run this cable up in its place around and to here. And if we do this with kind of all of our storage drawers, if we get them all connected up to different omnidirectional interfaces, like I think we'll probably stick to like one per platform, right? Like we could, if we wanted to, run this cable all the way along and then like across underground and over to here, but that kind of defeats the purpose if we can then just go ahead and make another omnidirectional interface, which I think is not going to be too difficult. We just need more cable for this, and the cable is really not that expensive, so we can then go and make 2 more of these. Of course, we never ever have enough of these variable transformers. I should probably make like a stack of both of these just so we have them ready to go, but if I do this and this, I don't know how we change the group on this. Like I don't know how we set it to oh, this is set to group 1. Interesting. So I do wonder if I were to like right click this onto here, can I change its group? Shift right click? Can connect to other omnidirectional connectors anywhere, including different dimensions. Oh, I'm being told by the Twitch chat here that we crafted with a one that's already in group 0. So if I pop this off, and then I craft this with this, I'm assuming, I don't know which group it takes. Like this one, it just says omnidirectional. It doesn't give me a group. Are those now connected to each other? Oh no, this just said group 0. Group 0, group 1. So if I do this again, I don't know how it decides which one to group it with, but it looks like that's now connected to group 0. So let me try over on this side. If I were to place down another cable, let's say here, and I did this, that is also group 0. Interesting. The first group goes first. I see. Okay, that is super cool, actually. That's going to make it a lot easier for us to connect every single one of our drawers and basically every single one of our storage containers to both the integrated dynamic system and the simple storage network. Alright, so a little bit of time later, and I've made quite a few of these omnidirectional connectors, and I've connected up most of the storage drawers that I think we need access to around the base. So right here, we have the omnidirectional connector, and we've got item interfaces on all of our drawers for our ingots. And then over here, we've got the same. We've got an omnidirectional connector right here, connected up to redstone, as well as diamonds, and then all the way over here, glowstone as well. And as we go forward and we get, ender pearls, we can put those in, and if we get anything else connected up, maybe slime balls, we can connect those up as well by just running that cable around and using the item interfaces. I've then done the same thing all the way over by steel. This one's a little bit more janky, but we have our omnidirectional connector, and then the item interfaces, and then we've got one of the slag drawers connected up, and then over here we've got the coal coke and the sticks connected up, and then finally all the way back over here, I've put down another one of the omnidirectional connectors and connected up basically all of these drawers. We've got cobble, gravel, flint. The sand is connected right there. The glass had to be connected on the bottom because all of the other sides were taken, but basically now all of these are connected to the system, so no more do we have to come over to access those. And one nifty thing that the Twitch chat did point out, if you want to craft more of these, what I did previously is I crafted the set of connectors and then crafted those connectors with a different connector that's already in group 0. Instead, what you can do is you can just replace this logic cable with a connector that is already in group 0, and then it will give you 3 more connectors that are already in group 0. And so now, for example, if I were to get just a few more of the item interfaces, we should be able to finally connect up these guys. If we go boom, boom, and boom, we can put down an omnidirectional connector right about there. And then now, if we check inside of our system, we have access to all of the research in all of its forms without having to come over manually to this drawer, and we can kind of check more easily how much of each piece of research we have. You'll see we've got over 2,000 of the logistics research, 389 production, and 350 of the mechanics. We also have access to all of our copper, all of our gold, all of our iron, all of our stone, all of everything, basically, around the base. There were some things I didn't connect, like the niter and the blaze rods. We could connect these up. It wouldn't be too difficult, but I just didn't really think that it was worth doing at this moment in time. But yeah, the same is true for these drawers here. We could have connected these up, but these drawers are currently set up in such a way that they only ever have one item in them at any given time. And so there's not really much point connecting this up. While I would like to have access to, a stack of iron plates at any given time, that's not currently how this is configured. It's possible we might look into reconfiguring this in the future so that it does have like a stack of plates in it at all times, and then we can just access those as and when we need them. That would be quite useful. Same for like aluminum gears and stuff, so we don't have to keep stealing them from this workbench every time we need them. But for the most part, we now have basically everything around the base connected to our integrated dynamic system. By extension, we also have access to all of that in our simple storage network system. And I think what I'm going to do is, between streams, I'm probably going to set up another area, like another building, for auto-crafting, because we are going to need a lot of sequential fabricators, as well as a lot of just regular crafting tables to go with all of our interfaces to start to auto-craft all of the things that we want to auto-craft. It is going to be a little tedious to set up in some circumstances, but like I said, the vast majority of recipes are craftable using the crafting table, and having certain recipes auto-crafted is just going to make our lives so much easier going forward. For example, right now we have our boiler set up, but it's possible and likely that in the not-so-distant future, 10,000 redstone flux is not going to be enough. We might want to look at duplicating this setup. Again, having our system make the dynamos for us, make the augments for us, all that kind of stuff is going to be just so much easier than having to do it manually. Same with like the researchers, we could teach our system how to make the research capsules, how to craft the modularium, how to make the steel sheet metal, all of this stuff that we keep doing manually that is just a little tedious to do again and again and again and again. We can have our system craft that for us, and it's going to make our lives a heck of a lot easier. But that is a problem for future Isaac. Next time, we'll come back. Hopefully, we can get a little bit more auto crafting going, and I think we'll probably look at getting this utility research underway. We'll set up another line of researchers. We'll get another compacting drawer down. We'll get some utility research unlocked, and then we can push further forward into the next age of the quest book, and we can look at maybe getting the mining drone automated, because this is kind of one of the main reasons why I did this. We have the Infinity Miner Tier 1, but as we saw in the last episode, if we want to get stuff like lead ore, aluminum ore, all that kind of stuff automated, we are going to have to get the Tier 2 Infinity Miner, and I say aluminum, it doesn't actually automate aluminum. That is unfortunate. Oh wait, okay, no, never mind. It does automate aluminum. We just need a different drill head to automate aluminum. Interesting. So aluminum has like its own Infinity Miner with Blazing Pyrotheum. That's interesting and definitely something we should do. But again, we were going to have to automate the production of these little robot dudes. And so having the ability to autocraft those with our integrated dynamic system is going to make life a whole heck of a lot easier than having to manually make them and restock whenever we need it. And also, one thing I've not mentioned that we can do is there is also an exporter as well. It is this one here. There's the item importer and item exporter, which is something we don't have access to with the simple storage network. And so going forward, instead of having to run item conduits everywhere, like we've been doing currently, we could potentially, if we wanted to, get rid of the item conduit that goes from redstone all the way around over to here, where the redstone goes in. Instead, if we wanted to do it, we could just get another one of these omnidirectional connectors, place that down above this, put down an item exporter, and it would export the redstone, or we could set it to export the redstone from here over to there automatically. And you could even have it export multiple different things, and so we could export the iron, the copper, and the redstone all through one item exporter, which would save us on running a ton of cable and is going to be super useful going forward. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Feed the Factory there.